Hello everyone and welcome to Sweet History, a channel full of random facts and lots of sparkles. Before the video starts, I just have a short checklist of items I want to cover. First off, thank you so much for the overwhelming support on the Maria Fyodorovna video, the first full-length history video released on the channel. Second, I wanted to address the comments that mentioned certain words being said incorrectly. For those who don't know, I do not use my real voice for my videos. Instead, I use a text-to-speech program that sounds like a young woman. Sometimes the program has trouble with saying certain words or the names of places or people. I will try my best to get the program to pronounce the words as accurately as possible. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. When we hear the name Napoleon Bonaparte, what comes to mind is this military expert who built a vast empire for the French. What we often do not hear about is his personal life, including the woman who stole his heart for many years. Although they met through unconventional circumstances, that did not stop them from starting a romantic relationship. This is the story of Empress Josephine. Born
Marie-Joseph Rose Taché de la Pagerie.
On June 23, 1763 to
Joseph Gaspard Taché de la Pagerie.
and
Rose Claire des Vergers de Sanois. In Trois-Îlets, Martinique.
Before meeting her husband, Josephine went by the name Rose for many years. Her family owned a sugarcane plantation which has since been turned into a museum. After hurricanes destroyed the estate in 1766, the family began to struggle financially. Josephine's aunt, Edme, who had been a mistress of
François, Marquis de Beauharnais.
a French aristocrat, tried to step in and help secure the finances of her family. When her lover's health began to fail, Edme arranged the marriage of her niece, Catherine, to Alexander, the son of her lover. However, the marriage between Alexander and Catherine never took place as Catherine died on October 16, 1777, aged just 12. Someone would have to take Catherine's place, with that someone being the then 16-year-old Rose. On December 13, 1779, Rose and Alexander got married in
Noisy-le-Grand.
Their marriage produced two children, a son named Eugene who was born in 1781, and a daughter named Hortense born in 1783. The personal relationship of Rose and Alexander was not a happy one, as Alexander would abandon his family for a year and frequent the brothels. This behavior would eventually lead to a court-ordered separation. Rose was the one who gained custody of her children, and the three of them lived at the Pentamont Abbey, which was run by Bernardine nuns. Rose was a witness to the infamous Reign of Terror, a bloody period in French history where about 300,000 people were arrested and about 17,000 were executed, including Marie Antoinette. Another 10,000 died in prison or without a trial. Rose's husband, Alexander, would also die from the swift, cold blade of the guillotine on July 23, 1794. He would die just 5 days before the execution of Robespierre. In 1795, not too long after the Reign of Terror ended, a law was passed that allowed Rose to retrieve the belongings of her deceased husband. In the same year, the 32-year-old Rose met the 26-year-old Napoleon Bonaparte and they would become lovers. Napoleon would write lengthy love letters to Rose, with one letter saying, "I awake full of you. Your image and the memory of last night's intoxicating pleasures has left no rest to my senses." In January the following year, Napoleon would propose marriage to Rose and the couple would marry on March 9, 1796. Napoleon was the one who started calling her Josephine, so the new Mrs. Bonaparte began to call herself that instead. The rest of Napoleon's family did not take kindly to Josephine, as they were shocked such a young man would marry an older woman with two young children. 2 days after their marriage, Napoleon left France to lead an army to Italy. Despite him sending passionate love letters to Josephine, Josephine hardly ever replied, and when she did, the letters came off as dry and unloving. Napoleon had a picture of his wife that he would keep in his pocket and he would kiss the image of his beloved wife many times throughout the day. Josephine, on the other hand, never looked at the portrait of her husband that was given to her and she began to have affairs, one of which was with a man named Hippolyte Charles, who was a lieutenant. Josephine had an affair before, to Paul Barras, who is credited with helping to facilitate the marriage between Josephine and Napoleon. When the news reached Napoleon, he was heartbroken and his love of Josephine changed. In 1798, during his military campaign to Egypt, Napoleon started his own affair with a woman named Pauline Fors, the wife of a junior officer. The relationship between Josephine and Napoleon was never the same after all these events. Josephine purchased a chateau in 1799 and ensured that its gardens were kept in top shape shortly after its purchase. Josephine wanted the landscaping to be English style, so she employed landscapers and horticulturalists from the United Kingdom. She learned more about botany from her staff. By the time she died, the rose garden is said to have over 250 varieties of roses. In December 1800, Josephine almost died on her way to see an opera performance. Napoleon, Josephine, her daughter Hortense, Napoleon's pregnant sister Caroline, and General Jean Rapp were all traveling together in 2 carriages. A bomb had been placed in a parked cart. Josephine was making sure that a new silk shawl was draping correctly, which caused the traveling party to be delayed. Napoleon went ahead in the first carriage, with the bomb going off as Josephine's passed by. Several bystanders were killed, alongside one of the horses that was pulling the carriage. The windows of the carriages were destroyed, and shattered glass struck Hortense in the hand. A few years later, in 1804, Napoleon was elected as Emperor of the French. The coronation ceremony was officiated by Pope Pius VII at Notre Dame. Napoleon first crowned himself emperor and then crowned Josephine as empress. While the coronation was magnificent, events shortly before were the exact opposite. Josephine caught Napoleon leaving the bedroom of one of her ladies in waiting, and the couple broke into an argument. Now that Napoleon was emperor, he needed an heir to succeed him, and until 1807 that heir had been his nephew, Napoleon Charles, who died from croup at the age of 4. Josephine was nearly 41 years old at the time, and fertility begins to decrease at age 40. In 1809 at dinner, Napoleon informed Josephine that he was divorcing her for the interests of France, since he needed an heir to succeed him. Josephine agreed to the divorce, and the two kissed one last time. In January 1810, the official divorce ceremony took place. Napoleon was the one who insisted on Josephine keeping her empress title, stating, "It is my will that she retain the rank and title of empress, and especially that she never doubt my sentiments, and that she ever hold me as her best and dearest friend." On March 11, 1810, Napoleon married Marie-Louise, the great-grandniece of Marie Antoinette. This marriage would result in the birth of Napoleon II, born March 20, 1811. After the divorce, Josephine went to live in her beloved chateau. Despite their estranged marriage, Josephine and Napoleon were on good terms with each other. In April 1810, Napoleon made Josephine the Duchess of Navarre. When Napoleon was exiled, Josephine went on a walk with Alexander I of Russia, and she begged to join Napoleon in exile. Not long after this meeting, Josephine on May 29, 1814 died after contracting pneumonia. She was only aged 50. When Napoleon heard of Josephine's death, he locked himself in his room for 2 days. He refused to talk to anyone during that time. Despite their rocky relationship, when Napoleon died on May 5, 1821 at the age of 51, his last words were as follows: "France, the army, the head of the army, Josephine." Far from the fairy tale romance, their relationship is often portrayed as. Napoleon and Josephine's romance shows just how complex human relationships can be. Perhaps in his final moments, the spirit of Josephine visited the deathbed of Napoleon, guiding him to the next world. Now that would make for a very tragic scene. Thank you everyone for watching. There is a poll in the video description where viewers can vote on the subject of the next history video. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and if you enjoy both history and gaming content, then please subscribe to Sweet History. Until next time.